Good morning, Senior Pride here. This morning, I am going to talk about cognitive assessment, a little bit about what it entails and why it's valuable. Now, I'm going to say up front, this was my field before I retired. I did these assessments. I have a bias, obviously. I believe that they're very valuable. So keep that in mind when I'm talking because, yeah, I admit it, this is my field. What I need to address this first of all, that cognitive decline, mild cognitive impairment, dementia, these are not normal aspects of aging. The mind is supposed to last, and under healthy conditions, it will last until we pass. But we live in a society where for example, we engage in a number of habits that may increase the incidence. So, for example, alcohol, medications that we take, we think they're helping us, but in the long run, they are affecting us cognitively. The lack of physical mobility that we now, things are much easier, but the result is that we don't get the physical exercise that our brains need. So there are a number of habits that we engage in, the chemicals in our foods. All of these things have combined to increase the incidence of dementia quite dramatically, and we need to keep that in mind when we're discussing dementia. It is not just part of aging. It is not to be expected. If you see someone struggling, that's a problem. Okay, so I'm going to talk, first of all, I need to address the fact that people want to be prepared for a cognitive assessment. You can't really prepare for a cognitive assessment. And the items that I found on the internet, they were interesting. They were, you passed, did you pass, did you fail? You can't pass or fail a cognitive assessment. There's no such thing as pass or fail in cognitive assessments. Trust me when I say the psychologist or the neuropsychologist will know if you have prepared, and they will make sure that you are fairly evaluated. So what is a cognitive assessment? Basically, it's an evaluation of an individual's memory, all aspects of memory, reasoning, perception, verbal and math skills, and problem solving. It looks at how we function. As I said, no pass-fail. Get that out of your mind. It's meant to determine if cognition is declining, if you're having problems with some of these areas of cognition. It does not determine cause, but a medical doctor, a neurologist will certainly look at things like, for example, an MRI. They'll do assessments to determine if there are changes in the actual structure or function of the brain. Now, there are a couple of quick tools that we frequently use, and there are a couple of quick assessments that they'll use, like, for example, in your general practitioner's office to determine if further evaluation is needed. So I'm going to start with quick screening tools, and I'm sure you've all heard of the clock face test. That's one of them. Counting backwards by threes, giving you 5 words, distracting you, and then a few minutes later asking you what those words were. Those help us to determine if there's some kind of decline. The 2 most commonly used, fairly quick tests in North America anyways, for just determining if further evaluation, more complex evaluation is needed, are the Mini Mental State Exam, the MMSE, and the MoCA, the Montreal Cognitive Test. And it's the MoCA is more commonly used now. It's been found to be more sensitive to certain things, but your responses on these will help determine, as I said, if you need further assessment. If it is determined that you need a more complete assessment, you will be sent to a psychologist or a neuropsychologist, preferably a neuropsychologist, preferably one who specializes in dementia and cognitive decline. And at the same time, you should be assessed by a neurologist, preferably a geriatric neurologist, again for those physical tests to determine changes. Now, one of the things we look at is historical data. So for example, when I was 9, I was determined to have learning disabilities. So all of that historical data is very valuable. If those tests still exist, it's great, because it allows us to look at what changes have occurred. So for example, with someone with a learning disability, basic cognitive skills are intact, but there's specific areas of problem. So we see, for example, dyslexia, dysgraphia, different disorders that impact skill learning, but the basic cognitive skills are intact, and we can use those assessments, those previous assessments, or that previous knowledge to determine if there's been decline. Change. Okay, so why do people wait to get assessed? Well, for one thing, early when in cognitive decline, when people are starting to notice that they're having difficulties with, say, short-term memory or basic functions, they start to feel shame and confusion. They don't understand what's happening. So they try to hide what is happening, and that's very common. By the time they're no longer able to hide what is happening and others are starting to notice, the person with the decline may simply no longer be aware that there's a problem, because they've reached a point where that is one of the difficulties. They no longer understand that they are experiencing cognitive issues. So if you see someone struggling, a friend, a family member, and you're concerned, if there's any way for you to get in contact, for example, with their general practitioner, if they have a psychiatrist, anybody who's involved in their care, please do. I have seen too many older people struggling, left to fend for themselves, and trust me when I say invariably it ends badly. It does not go well. Now, no, we can't cure dementia. We don't have that skill set yet. What we can do is provide supports. We can slow it. If we catch it before it reaches the point of actually being technically dementia, we're still in cognitive decline. We can support a person to develop habits and to change habits that will help them to slow the progression of the decline. We can support them in ways that will help them to cope in their daily life and to have a more enjoyable, fulfilling daily life. So these things are important. It's important to catch it early if we can. And I'm asking you to be proactive. As I said, I've seen so many seniors ignored, and it does not end well. Now, again, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. Please hit that subscribe button and explore. And as I've said all along, to be senior is to be proud. Love ya. Hugs.